So we're back now with part two. Sorry about the interruption. We had got to the stage where David had just arrived and into the Beyond Recovery course with Jacqueline Hollows. David, take it from there.
Yeah, they explained that it's not like any other course and all this and that. And for me, I was in such a bad place. Really, I just couldn't accept someone could be happy because I was so negative. I was like, these lot are crazy to me. They were like hippie-ish, and I was in such a dark place. And the first thing I was sitting there, and I was under the influence of drugs, and it's like, yeah, this ain't for me. It was.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the key things they say is, leave your ego at the door. Anything that you think leave it at the door. Just be open and be fresh, or be open to learning something new. But also say is, if we say bring it back into the room, it's nothing personal. It's because you've gone off the topic and you're only there for a short time. Kind of value. Yes, you're on a short time there. But say this the first session. Literally, I went back to the second session to do a drug deal. That's the only reason I went back to meet someone. That is literally the only reason I went back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, and Anna Debenham, she's doing amazing things in America. They're taking it into prisons in America now. And Lydiana was actually in the room, and Anna was explaining the river of thought, explaining about you only ever feeling you're thinking, and then always back thoughts and this and that. And that's the thing, Billy. I don't know the date or anything like that, but I know, like in the room, I was talking to the bloke that's sitting to my right. I don't even know his name. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if it's white, black, blue. I just know I was talking to someone to my right, being in a whatever. And Liliana said, "Can you bring it back into the room?" And by the time I looked from there to Liliana, it's not a massive room. In my head, from that one thought, it's like, she's made me look stupid. She shut me up. What people are gonna think? I'll show her. He ain't gonna pay me for night. I just started stacking them thoughts, and I don't know if I was, but I felt like I was literally sitting there shaking. But like it was like you might as well come and slap me around the face a couple of times. Like that's how angry I felt. It's like, I'm gonna smoke a joint. I'm gonna get him kicked out of the prison. I'll show like all the ego and
disrespecting me. Yeah.
Yeah, like all that stupid rubbish that I made up.
Mm-hmm.
But I just looked from Liliana to Anna, and it was like that. I see the diagrams, and I don't know. I still find it hard to put into words, really. It's like, this big bag of rubbish we all carry around with us, and for me, it was 20 odd years of. It was a pretty big bag. It was just the weight of the world fell away. It was, like I said a number of times before, the easiest way for me to explain it is my finding God, my finding peace of mind. But I didn't know that at the time. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I felt empty, but in a good way. Because before, my mind was constantly, I'd be talking to this person, having a conversation, but I wouldn't be having a conversation with someone. I'd be having a conversation like, what's their angle? Like, if I give him this, I know he's going to do this, and like, it was, my mind was just busy, like constantly, and it's just
working the angles all the time, like.
Yeah, like it's just conspiracy theories. It's all like, it was just hard work. I didn't know that at the time because that was my life, so I didn't know no different. Yeah, that was on a Thursday, and I think read a bit of the missing link. I didn't really hear nothing from it from that day. A couple of days later, I opened it up and I read it. Like all the books, my life was crime. Every book I read was about crime and all that sort of stuff. But I actually read it. It was such a strange experience for me because I read a sentence and it was like my eyes wouldn't move off that sentence until I got the meaning behind it.
And what book was it, David?
The Missing Link.
The Missing Link, yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, so it was like I started getting all these answers to questions and I was crying reading this book and it was like, but I felt okay crying. Even though I was on my own, before I used to cry myself with my mental health, it's like, I shouldn't be crying. I'll beat myself up about crying. You're meant to be this and all these things that I thought that I was. I
And
realised
David
that I
the
was
Hardman, yeah.
yeah, like all this, and it's like, well, no, you're not. You're not this. You're not your labels, and you're not weak-minded. We all think the same. We had all these questions, and I think a day later, I went on to that. There's something happened on the wing, and it was just about to kick off with all these fights. And I used to thrive off of fighting because I feel something, you know. And it's like I just realised I don't have to fight. Like I don't have to go through this over whatever it was, a packet of tobacco. That's this silly. So I don't have to do that. So I self-isolated. I locked myself behind the door just so I didn't get into no more conflict. Like I didn't have to get into more confrontations. Like I don't want to hurt any more people because I don't have to. You know, so that got resolved. Then I started going back to more groups and seeing more things and reading more books, Sydney Banks books, and trained to become a facilitator. I used to preach. You know, when someone finds God, they want everyone to have it. Like I just didn't know something had
Hallelujah,
happened.
brother. Yeah, evangelize, yeah.
I just didn't know, so I used to really preach and shout. I used to get offended when people didn't hear what was saying. It's like, what's the matter with you? Can you not yeah? But it was stuck. It's not. It's
Hear me.
yeah, it's like, what's the matter with you? Why? Like, it's so simple, and God knows how many people I got to buy the missing link, and like used to preach about it, and wasn't very grounded at all. but yeah, just going on from that, and I literally went from losing all them extra days, getting kicked out of prisons. I used to, at one point, I'd have to go 3 prison officers to bring my food to my door, so I wouldn't kick off with them, and that. Then I started, not intentionally, it just went from that negativity. The next minute, I started getting my enhanced, which is like a good status tab where you can get spend more money, extra visits. It's a privilege. Then I was getting red bands. At one point, I was like one of the most trusted inmates in the whole prison. I was giving other inmates canteen to them. It was like giving me the keys to the bank, basically, a bank vault. It's like, wow, within this short period of time. And since then, my life just changed. I went to open prison. I messed up with my insecurities. But it's a learning curve. That's the thing now. I still make mistakes. I'm still one of the people that have to learn the hard way, or is that just my thinking that I have to learn the hard way? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I learn the hard way. But the thing is that I'm actually learning now from it. Really, that I, I might make a mistake, but the second time it comes up, I know not to do that, and I know the consequences, and I listen to myself and I trust myself a lot more. Because with this understanding, before I didn't know that I was insecure. Now I've got this understanding. I know that I'm insecure. Now I'm insecure about being insecure, you know, and it's like, it's all new. When you live your life going one way, then it's opened up to another way, and it's all new. I was so ignorant to life. Like, my life was literally just money, drugs, women, insecurity, ego. And all of a sudden, I've got this other path of people being nice to me and praising me. And it's like, I've always been told, like, you're this, you're that, or he's this, and all these negative connotations, all this negative. Next minute, these people saying you're doing amazing, and that made me feel insecure and uncomfortable. I couldn't take praise because I've never been praised before. Yeah, so yeah, just getting released, and even meeting, doing that talk with you, literally in the morning on the council estate. Now I've gone from being in a council estate to looking around, and it's like at that it weren't no small place, that the big manor house, what it was, and it's like, wow, it's amazing where life can take me, like the opportunities and the things that I've done, like opening a conference, speaking in front of 1,000 people, the London conference. It's like, it's just, yeah, my life's just crazy, and I get so
Crazy
back
good
into
though.
business. Oh yeah, oh yeah, like
Crazy
it's
good,
like
like,
when
yeah,
yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
crazy
even
good,
as I'm
like.
saying this, thinking, oh, what should I say? Like, and I'm thinking like, there's so much good stuff's happened.
Yeah.
It's like
It
made
went
us
from like crazy bad to crazy good. Like, it just,
yeah.
it's
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's what, when I'm saying it's crazy. That's not me
yeah,
saying it to you.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
me
yeah,
saying it to
yeah,
myself. It's
yeah.
like, well, do you want to know? Should I say about talking in front of 1,000 people? Should I talk about going to the Lord Mayor's residence in Mansion House a couple of months ago, and
Mm.
like talking in front of all these kids, like, and,
You,
going back into prison. I go like going back into prisons, helping people. I've worked out homeless charities, and what's such a big thing, not a big thing that I really like. Obviously, my big insight was into with Liliana. Now me and Liliana are running our own group in Watford, working for Watford Council with homeless charity. Obviously, everything's on hold at the moment, but even that is like, how strange is that someone that's helped me and changed my life so much for the better. Now that I've got the privilege and honour to go in and be working with her, and it's just, yeah, it's just life is just,
it's Christ, David. That's all I can say. I mean, it, it's just to bear witness to that particular journey right now. To go from, as it were, gangster number one to trustee number one, in that period of time, and I remember, like you say, a sizable part of the story when you told the story, but I had forgotten about that particular week, how literally your whole life, however bad it was prior to that, went to complete shit that week. Everything that could possibly go wrong at its absolute worst was so much loss, so much violence, and so much loss, and so much pain in such a condensed period of time. Is enough to break any soul. And it is, and you can see, you can instantly understand the origins of PTSD in that given moment. But it goes back to this point, and one of the reasons why I was so honored that you would come on to talk about this. And I said this to you earlier on, this is about pointing, and this has come up on different occasions. No matter how far we seem to think we're gone in life, there's always a way back. There's
yeah,
always a way back. Always,
yes,
without exception. Without exception. And, I want to go into where you are now and the work that you're doing now, because to get the story, to get the gravity of the transformation, to have the context of it from one side to the other, it just underlines, we'll say, and underscores the whole object of all of this. The challenges that we face in our lives appear big to us, and then we hear other stories and realize, well, maybe they appear big to us because we think they're big.
yeah.
And there is a reason inside of us, a misunderstanding and insecurity, and when we don't know it's that and we think it's something else, it then has an effect on our actions. It has an effect on how we see life and then how we respond. And in your case, the response was just fucking epic, is the only way I can describe it, in the wrong direction, and but then you said something which I think is really, really, really important in all of this. And like I say, it's part of the next, what I want to hear where you are now and share all of this understanding. But you say you're out of prison this period of time, you're in a wonderful relationship, you're working, but you said something in the middle of it which I thought was very telling. I still make mistakes.
Yeah.
I still make mistakes. And it's really important that when I'm introducing people and we're telling these things, is that we live life. Life is to be lived, and we do make mistakes, and we do make us balls up at things along the way. But here's the thing. It's never the balls up, it's the recovery from the balls up that makes the difference. That old adage, it's not the fall, it's about the getting up. But it's also, like you say, it's about the learning of it and recognizing the mistake and then the impersonal nature of it and moving forward from it rather than bringing it on. And I just in that little bit there, I'd love for you to speak about that, David, what you just learned in around that particular area there.
what you're saying about saying mistake. Like, I just thought I don't actually like that word mistake. I know I said it.
Yeah, fair
Because
enough.
it's such a negative connotation. What I like to think is, this has just occurred to me now. It's a life lesson, isn't it? There's no
Yeah,
such thing
beautiful.
as a mistake.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity to grow as a person and to see I don't like that, or I don't like when I act like this because I don't like to be that person. You know? Yeah, so yeah, I think, and that's the beauty of this understanding. Yet again, there's always opportunity to learn. With this understanding is limitless. The only limit, it's like us, isn't it? The only limits that we have is what we put on ourselves. I
Mm.
limited myself so much to life. Now, like, life is just, yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, so to say mistake for me is, for my say mistake is just, yeah, it's an opportunity to grow and to learn. And as I said before, with me, most of my life was so dark, and so when I'm going through things now, I get to see life from a different thing and see what I do like and what I don't like. Because when you're in a bad relationship, you stay in it for the wrong reasons. You get to see what you do want from a person, from a relationship, what you're going to accept and what you're not. It's like, I had a bad relationship for this one, but I couldn't change that relationship, that mistake, if you want to call it that, which it was, because that's made me the person I am here now. That's allowed me to go into this fresh relationship that I'm in now,
Yeah.
person that I really truly believe I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, my soulmate, and it's allowed me to grow. You know, I've sinned so much. You know, it's even mistakes. Let's say mistake.
Life
It's
lessons.
even yeah, life lesson, but it's even like like I said, I drank too much. Went through a stage where I got released from prison. I drank too much, and I wasn't very thoughtful of other people. You know, because I chose to buy into that I spent so long in prison and I've not drunk for so long, so therefore I should be drinking before I know it. I was drinking 10, 15 pints a night and got caught with that. And that my justification was as it's acceptable because you go into the pub and all your friends want to buy you a drink, you have a drink and have a drink. I didn't think that I could say no, and same with women, that sort of thing. And it was just, it's kind of acceptable. So I bought into that. And yeah, then I realised that that's not life. That that that's not what I want to be. But for example, and like with weed, I used to look around a lot, really. Like a part of my whole thing, I used to always be looking around, always looking for the next thing to rob or an enemy or someone that I wanted to do. But I was always constantly, never sit still. Not so I might sit still, like mentally, even with this
Mm.
understanding, I'll still be looking around and that. So I'm quite lucky if I find money and like 20 grand, like what money, and I found a bag of weed, and I wasn't smoking, I wasn't smoking cigarettes or nothing at the time. But I didn't want to sell it because I know I've had this insight before. Me selling drugs is like me taking them myself. It's just as bad. So I don't want to take drugs myself, so therefore I'm not going to sell it. But my wisdom told me just put it in the bin.
Mm.
There's that little nagging, that little bit was still there. Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, there's 50
So,
quid in this, like, yeah.
so what did I do? I come home, put it on the side. It was there for a good while. Then I was working in a pub, so I was getting home late. Well, I was working 3 jobs at one point, so I could do my voluntary stuff. So I wouldn't get in till 12, 1 o'clock at night, and I'd have to be up at 6 o'clock to go to the building site. And working in the pub can be quite hectic and
Mm.
quite mentally challenging. Come home and just, not in your head in a bad way, but it's just alive. Like,
Yeah, you're revved up, like, yeah, you're going
yeah,
non-stop, like, yeah.
yeah. So then it's like, well, I've got to be up in a few hours. And one night I thought, oh, I've got to remember to have the weed. Huh? I was going to have a little joint. That'll help me get to sleep. I that helped me get to sleep. And whenever a few days later, I was like, oh, that helped me last time. I had a joint. Before I knew it, I was smoking every night, even if I weren't working. I was coming home from work smoking before I went to work, smoking at weekends, and it just got into that cycle. And I didn't realise at the time. Obviously, I had no thinking about it to me because it wasn't a problem. I'm not out robbing anyone for drugs, and I've got money. I'm
You could
working.
justify it all, like, yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, I didn't really even see the justification in it. It was just because that was, to me, weed wasn't a drug. Cannabis wasn't a drug. Like, I had no negative connotations with it. You know, where a lot of drugs you can see is really bad, but for me, and I've got into a lot of problems, arguments with drug workers, where they're telling me that I'm wrong for saying cannabis is not a gateway drug and this and that. But now, obviously, that was my old way of thinking. Yeah, so before long, I was smoking it every day. Then I got signed off from work for my shoulder. Then I had to smoke all day. Then before I knew it, I told myself that I needed to smoke weed to be able to sleep at night. I made this story up. Then if I didn't have weed, then I couldn't get to sleep. Then yeah, I went into this crazy whole story. Then I started being able to write. Like, so I was dyslexic. I used to hate writing. When I got to understand them, I used to literally write 30 pages of my insights. I've got books and books of ways to write, and just really started enjoying writing and that. Then at some point that kind of fell away. Then when I was smoking weed, I could put things into words again. Then I told myself that I needed to smoke weed to be able to write and be able to have insights. And I started to justify it and to myself, then to anyone other people. Yeah, then yeah, so that I'm not smoking weed now. But it's funny, after the last time I smoked it, I didn't smoke it for a few weeks. Then I mean, my partner were having been out for the day, took the kids for a walk and that, and said, "Oh, can we get some weed and have a joint?" And she was in the kitchen. I'd had a joint, come into the front room, and I was sitting there. Like, I love music. I always got music on, and I thought I needed music to be connected, a joint to be connected to the music and this and that. But I was sitting there, and it's like she was in the kitchen. I was making a drink, a cup of tea or something. It was like I just felt different about it. It was like I'd rather be in the kitchen with her than sitting here with my headphones on, and it was just I didn't feel paranoid as such, but it was starting to creep in, and it was like, yeah, it wasn't the best of experiences. But yeah, so I really see that how important it is to listen to my wisdom.
Yeah.
You know,
It,
I'm not
it
in
doesn't it show up, in the oddest way sometimes. There's that moment, where you're, like you say, you're smoking a joint and you got your earphones in, but suddenly you realize, well, wait a second. What would really please me is to actually be with Lisa in the kitchen having a cuppa. That's what real happiness is.
yeah, and the other thing is what I've really seen since I've been with Lisa. I said this to you earlier. With this understanding is like before, I was always needy. I needed to be with someone, or I needed to be with them. What can I get out of this person? So that's in my head.
Yeah.
That's all it was like.
I
What can
needed
I get out of
drugs,
this
I needed
person?
this, I
Yeah,
needed that.
I
Yeah.
need you to do. But what I really seen with Lisa is not. I don't need her. I want to be with her. Like I want to, not in a needy way or an insecure way. I just love spending time with her. She's sitting there reading, and he's sitting in the garden or making a tea. Like I found myself loving, not liking, loving the simple things. When we're together and when I get up to make a cup of tea, I get quite emotional about it. Like putting the cups together and putting the sugars in. I still get up quite early, so getting a drink ready and just stuff like that. But being with her, it's like I said, I found peace of mind with this understanding. But being with her is like I found peace of soul. What I really noticed is since I've been with her, one of the things I don't look around like I'm just present. And the funny enough thing is when I really noticed I was in Watford where she lives, and I come back to Brighton. As soon as I got off the train at Brighton, it was constant. I was searching, like my eyes were going, but I'd never realised really how tiring that actually was until that moment. And when walking down the road, it's like, yeah, now this is hard work. It was literally
Yeah.
everyone. I'm looking at body language, like in prison. It's all about like me. It's like someone I could see someone in a pair of flip flops, for example. I'd have that disagreement with them, and I see them walking towards me again with a pair of shoes on. For me, that's an indicator. There's little things like that, and it's like,
Yeah, the paranoia builds up, doesn't it?
yeah, and it's all that. Look, I didn't never realise how tiring that was. Just being with Lisa, it's just like that's just fell away, and it's just you have insights and insights. You for me, just looking at her, and you think, oh, I love this girl. Like one time, she was sitting down smoking in the bag, and I was sitting on the chair, and it was like I was looking at her, I think I could, like, I love this girl so much. Like, it's not possible to love anyone the way I love her. Like, I've never felt that connection and love. And it was like, oh, I kind of let it go. And it was like, I looked at it again. It was like something hit me. Like that, I just fell in love with her all over again in that moment. And it's just, I find that happens so much. I just look at her and I'm getting emotional now. But yeah, she's just brought so much peace and joy to my life. It really is
Yeah.
amazing.
Isn't it? And I've had this conversation, David, very recently on the subject of relationships, and someone asked me, a coach that I was working with asked me, in relation to this, how does this, ego and love and how do you know the difference and whatever? And I said, if you want to truly understand the difference between in love between ego and wisdom, is this: love is about possession when it's the ego. It's about needing them, owning them, about controlling them, about that they like it gets all consuming in the sense that it's unhealthy for both you and the person. That's not actually love, that's possession. It's a conditional thing, being that relationship all the time. It's about controlling them, it's about controlling you, it's about all of those things. That's not, like you say, getting into the relationship for all other reasons. That's ego.
Mm.
Love, in the area of what we're talking about, and wisdom is the continuous re-emergence of the wonder of this person that's with you, that you don't mind sharing with them, you don't mind giving them your time, you want to be with them, certainly, but it's on a mutual basis, that it's not about possession, it's not about ownership, it's simply about recognizing this person that you're with, and you see them, at such a deep level, that there's that connection, that that they're good on their own, you're good on your own, but when you're together, there is an unconditional acceptance of who we are, even on a human level. It's just the way it is, that you're not forcing the other person to change to make you happy, or you want them to behave differently, because that's the ego, that's the conditional nature of love. Whereas the wellspring of unconditional love is entirely different. And I'm honored and I'm deeply touched that with the openness that you expressed this, David, and just wipe me the tear away from me, right? Because the thought that occurred to me was, it's only a couple of years ago, the reaction would have been entirely different, and this is also part of just being able to express that, to understand that what we're expressing right now is just beauty, and in some cases that beauty gets expressed with a tear, because it moves us deeply. This is what we're talking about here. And it's incredibly moving. It's incredibly moving when we shift the gear from neediness and possession and ego into openness and freedom and love and appreciation of another human being for who they are. Perfect.
That's the thing. The first, for another example, with this, when I gained this understanding, I watched Britain's Got Talent one night, and one of the results of me gaining this understanding, I ended up giving my TV away. I didn't want to tell him myself because I really see the negative and just how nonsense most of it is. But before I did that, I watched Britain's Got Talent. It was a missing persons choir, and I was so
Oh yeah,
present.
they were beautiful.
I was so present, and it was how bad my baby died. Like, I really see that these people, their family members, have been missing for 20, 30 years, and like, but at least I had closure. Like, and I just had so much compassion and empathy for these people, what they were going through. I was literally crying, but I thought I was broke again. But this was all new for me. I was told that I had no compassion and no victim empathy, and like all my paperwork's all really extreme, like my behaviour was. I was told all these sort of things, and so I went and asked Jackie in Hollows, and I told her what was going on. I thought I was literally broken. She said, "No, that's compassion." And, you know, to jump forward and to be with someone, the beauty of being with someone with this understanding is, like, I watched Britain's Got Talent Nights the week before, and it was a sign along fight, and just sit there and just. Oh, to be fair, I watched it this morning before I started talking to you. Like, I just really love it. Like,
Yeah.
crying, just to not care about crying. And these kids, they like, don't take the Mickey, but it's like they don't take the notes off now.
There's your man crying again.
Yeah, here they go again.
Yeah, I get that. Look, okay, I can confess now that we're recording this because of myself and my daughter sitting down and we're watching Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent. I'm a sucker for that. I am a complete sucker for that. And when kids come on and you see the challenges that they have faced and like they're surrounded by people that love them and want them to be fully included in life and in the experience of life, regardless of the incapacities that physical or otherwise that they face. And I'm a sucker for the kids. And my daughter looks at me and I'm sitting there and the tears are coming and I'm waiting for them to come on. And I'm kind of going, oh, my heart is so full of love, you know, and it's so full of compassion. And it's not pity, it's none of that.
No,
that's not what we're talking about. But just to be free and present to experience what their story is opening up inside of me. And it's so freeing, you know. This conversation I had with a friend last night, and we were discussing this, and we've been discussing the principles, and he's come across them recently through the lives, and the impact is clear in his life already, you know. And he says he's the thing that for all of us, something triggers this when we start to see, oh, wait a sec, there's something else, you know, that maybe I haven't been seeing life clearly. I've been stuck in, like you say, in one particular train. I am David Saunders, the Eastern White Boy, I'm the criminal, I'm all of that stuff, and that was your story, and you lived through that. And then you had a moment where you're going to go, oh, well, maybe not, and things start to shift. But for him, like he said to me yesterday evening, he said, it's the compassion. He said, it's compassion. He said, my heart is full. And when he was talking about it, and the events that showed up, for him in the last couple of weeks, but how he really had only seen one version of the story of his past, and how he had been living his life through that version that he assumed that he was. And when we had a couple of conversations and I began to just challenge him on that and about presence, he began to understand the nature of what presence actually is. We're always present in the moment. The only thing that gets in our way, and it's this misnomer of come back to the moment. Well, you've never fucking left the moment. There is no second moment. We've always been in the moment, It's just that somehow it appears to us that we're not. Like you say, it gets really noisy up here. And like you say, when you got off the train and you were back in Brighton, your head was ramped up. And now that you know the difference between both, it becomes really obvious when you recognize that how quickly your head fills up. And he began to see that. He began to see how quickly his head would fill up. And the moment he started to see that, the moment he realized that, oh, wow, maybe I wasn't seeing this the way around. And he began to see the impact of, like you said, David, other people in our lives, and how they were struggling with their stuff, and how they were struggling with their pain, and how they were responding to life through their pain, which had really nothing to do with us, even if we were recipients of that abuse, and vice versa, when we didn't realize that we were responding to their pain, and what we were doing is dissipating it by being violent. And it transmits itself in all different forms, certainly. But if we concentrate on the behavior, like what was happening with you for a long time, we forget that it's all up here to start out with. And when we don't know any differently, we're liable to fucking respond badly. And when he began to see that, and no, he never responded badly in that sense, but he found like that life was weighing him down. Life was just weighing him down. And it just took something I said or something that he'd heard, and it switched. It literally threw a switch, And I've had that moment, and like you've had that moment, like you said, when you were with Liliana, and suddenly something, you've no idea what shifted, but suddenly something changes the gear. And you recognize, well, maybe there's a possibility of something new. And that's the element of all of this, pointing this out to people, that no matter how far you're gone, there's always a way back. And if you're open to the possibility of hearing something new, you will.
I think something could always turn up as well, Billy.
Yes.
But two things. Obviously, my thing was for this understanding was drugs. You tell me a problem, I'll tell you a drug for. Like that, drugs was just everything for me. But I've had so many insights into drugs. Like my drug of choice used to be ecstasy because of the good feeling, the guilt, like the loving feeling. I started taking them in the 90s, so they was a bit different to what they probably are now. So it was still that loved up.
I'm that old. Yes.
You went out clubbing, and it was like people give you bottles of water and cigarettes, come up and cuddle you, and people you didn't know. It was all that love and feeling. So for me, that was my drug of choice. But now you're saying about something you said. But now I sit in a room, and you see someone else have that insight, that spark, when you see someone's face, like not something you said, it's even better than something you said, but it's someone just to see that light switch on in someone's eyes is better than any drug there is. Like I've done just about every drug, but one form or another. Isn't that?
That's the material high. We're not talking about a material high here.
Yeah, like that real, like that. That's what I'm saying. That is everything.
It's high.
It's love high, isn't it? And
it's love high.
That's the beauty. The beauty of being with someone that's got this understanding, like Lisa, is to read a book, and I've come to recognise, and now like to be reading, and I see her look up, and she'd get up and start walking towards me, and she'd have tears in her eyes, but I know they're tears of joy where she's had it inside. So that feeling when you see someone else, when it's someone that you actually love and care about anyway, it's like, I don't need to read it. She starts telling me about her inside, like, and for me, it's just that.
It becomes Linda's unique expression of that. But and this is one of these brilliant effects for me through all of this, David, is literally what you're talking about, is the fact that we are talking about exactly the same thing through the unique expression of who we are in this world. So we're all talking about the point to the same deeper inner innate wisdom and resilience and intelligence that we all are. Once we see past that stuff that's been jumbling up our heads and stuff. And like for me, I'm sitting here and I've had a large number of these conversations over the last month, and every single conversation still points back to the same thing, but through the unique expression of David and the unique expression of Billy and the unique expression of Liliana and Linda and you know, Phil Goddard yesterday and Deacon Bellinger tomorrow, and you know what I'm saying? But everybody is pointing to exactly the same thing, but in their unique expression.
Well, love is
This
the only real emotion, isn't it, Billy? To be fair, everything else is made up.
I missed
Love
it.
is the only. Love is the only real emotion. Everything else is made up, isn't it?
Yeah, because you know, when we're at peace with ourselves, when we're at peace in here, there's no internal struggle going on. The openness to accepting everybody else's story because you recognize it as everybody else's, just a story. It's very
Sorry,
easy to.
I think my battery's going to run out, Billy. So 1 second. I don't know. Oh. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You still hear me? Sorry, the batteries, they're only cheap headphones.
That's no bother. That's perfect. I'm recognizing that we're kind of we've gone way off the limit anyway. Focus. Pardon my French. Excuse me, because it's brilliant and I'm loving it, David. And I don't. I genuinely we are going to wind it down shortly, but we are coming to the nub of all of this, David. We're coming to the nub of all of this. This is a journey in the sense of what it really means to be on a journey. You know, and this, no, let's go back to Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent when they're talking about a journey. I add a to that one because then there is this. Then there is a man who was so traumatized in his own world and living in his own world and the behavior of his own world and having no understanding of the self-love, to have no understanding of self-love, just something as simple as that, to begin to understand the true meaning of self-love and the selflessness of it and the freedom of it.
But even that was new to me as well. Do you know, to like the person? Even I've come to like the person I was, which was strange, but now I love the person in so many, like, how thoughtless I can. Don't get me wrong, it depends. I'm human.
Life lessons.
But you know, like, how thoughtless I am. And for an example, someone helped me with some money recently, and we was in KFC, for example. And I was just looking, and I see a man come in, pick up a homeless man. I didn't know he was homeless. I see a man come in, pick up a tray from an empty table, like there's no one sitting there, but there's a tray of food, and he walked away. I thought, oh, he might just sit there. But as I see at the corner of my eye, he took the bits of chicken off the thing tray and put it into the bin and walked away. He kept the chicken, walked out the door eating it. Like, before I knew it, I was outside giving him money to buy something. There was no thought in it. It was like, I sat down and I was like, I like this person I am. I don't like this person like I love this person. Whereas before, I would have been so judgmental. Oh, look at him, he's doing that. He's like all this rubbish. And it's, yeah, so to even come to like the person you are, to love the person is such a new thing. How, and just like, when you love yourself, it's just like, how can you expect other people to love you? Or not expect that, but it's like, it just opens up the whole big floodgates, doesn't it? To express that. Because how can I express love to you if I don't understand love to myself? Does that make sense?
Perfect. It makes perfect sense.
I read your posts, it's like I read them, and like, especially on your mum, the letter, and it's like it tears my eyes, and like crying is like, but that's how I know that I'm present. You know, that's a good indicator, isn't it? If I'm crying, I'm in the moment.
I cried a lot that week. You know, that was that particular fortnight, around the time of getting the letter from my mother, and then 2 weeks later, a jar appears with my father's obit inside and torn out of the paper a year after he was, his first or second anniversary, and had been resting inside in that jar for 27 years, unopened, untouched by anybody. And when I opened the jar, when it was dropped into me, there was my father's obit inside in it. So, there was it was such a profound spiritual experience for me in that period of time. And it was, David, and it is a very moving experience of love, and to be able to know that and to feel that and to express that and to be present with what shows up, because sometimes it's not good stuff, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's, but what happens is that from a place of self-love, we now get it.
Well, that's the thing, is like that, but it's never what happens, but it's how we choose to deal with it, that situation. I don't know for you, but before this understanding, I played the victim with my baby, for example. It's like, not the victim, like, why did he die on my chest? Why wasn't he with my mum? I took him to the doctors a few days, but why didn't the doctor pick up on it? Like, why didn't he say, like, all this sort of stuff? And I couldn't look at pictures of him or anything like that. I couldn't watch anything to do with babies or kids, even adverts, and he said, set me off. From this understanding is now that I'm grateful that he died on my chest, Billy. And it sounds strange to say that, but I'm grateful that he died on my chest, that he wasn't upstairs on his own in a cot. I'm grateful that he was with me and not with his mum, not because she wouldn't have dealt with it any better or any worse, but just she didn't, like, for all the things that when I come out of that thinking, it's kind of turned away. Like and I'm grateful that I was a thieving little sod, because the day before I stole, this is so long ago, Billy, it was a Kodak camera. The petrol stations used to have Kodak cameras.
Once upon a time, yeah.
Yeah. My justification is I'm putting 30 quid in the car is probably 80, 90 now, but I'm putting 30 quid in the car, so therefore I'm entitled to steal a chocolate, or I'm entitled to steal something. But this day, it just so happened to be there's Kodak cameras there. So I stole the Kodak camera. So I took photos of my son and the night before, but that morning he died. At 8:30 in the morning, I've got photos of him. Whereas before, it's like, why did I make them photos? Why did I have to see him? But the thing is, like, I'm holding him, making his bottles, and he's smiling at me. And there's pictures of him actually looking at me, smiling. And I'm grateful for all these photos that I couldn't look at for all these years. And I'm grateful that I've got that photo of him, like, looking at me, smiling. And so, it's.
Isn't it such an honor, David, that the passing of your child in the end brought you so much peace?
Yeah, and I've actually got into debates, not debates, but arguments with people where I believe everything in life happens for a reason. It's never what happens, it's always how we choose to deal with it. Whereas me, before, and people say you're trying to justify your son's death. I'm not trying to justify it. It's to say that that's made me the person I am today. If he didn't die, would I be this person? I can tell you now, Billy, I'll probably be dead myself. It's the bottom line. Honestly, with one form or another, or gone on to hurt a lot more people, will be into prison. It's not to say that I justify my baby's death, but some goods come from it. And
you see, but this is the point I'm coming to, David. This is the point I'm coming to. Is that where you are is at peace with it, and recognizing that that once you got past your stories of anger and the stories of grief and the stories of all of those things, that at the end, in that moment, when your child chose to leave, if we put it that way, that it was in your arms. And to me, it's powerful, and it's loving, and it's exactly what it means to you, David. We can all concept this. I can say this, and other people can pick another opinion to it, and somebody else. But out of it, for you, came such good. That it fills your heart with love now, not with anger and resentment and stuff, but with love and gratitude and all of those things. And that is such a powerful shift. It's such a powerful shift. And I'm glad we got to it, David, truthfully, you know, in this guy. And I know we're gone way over. And I apologize to anybody that's watching this, that I promised these would only be 35, 40 minutes long. And I know we're gone way past it, but I don't care. This has been just for me personally a privilege to hear the truth of this story so far, you know, and we're only really at the beginning of David's next life. You know, like every time I see him on Facebook, something new and something wonderful has happened. And speaking at the conference in London, and in a loving relationship, and is working. But what I want to bring around, David, just before we wrap up and we do it, is just to talk about Jacqueline and the Beyond Recovery program and what that's doing now, and how the principals are now working with ex-cons like yourself and stuff like that. And well, I would let me rephrase that word, you know, because it doesn't describe you now. You know, ex-con is kind of a slip of the tongue more than anything else. But you're working now with lads that are out of prison and stuff now, aren't you? Or are you? Or have I got the right to do that?
No, I was going back into prison to work.
You're going back in.
The problem with this understanding, really, not the problem with the understanding. The problem is other people's unwillingness to be open to this understanding. What it boils down to is, and it's such a shame that it boils down to, is funding. Is the bottom line. Is you can't just go into prison. People need to live, and there's a lot of problem with funding. At one point, it was in 2 prisons, and mainly they're in Nottingham now. But yeah, it's going back into there. But they're doing such amazing work, and those people are having major insights in Nottingham, and even staff getting life-changing experiences from this understanding. Because that's the thing with this understanding. This understanding does not discriminate. It's a one.
It's every human being we're talking about, yeah.
It's for all of us. So, yeah, obviously at the moment is, well, no one can go back into prisons, but everything's kind of put on hold. But yeah, Beyond Recovery, they're still doing their webinars and they're doing Zoom meetings, and that's the thing. As we've seen today, technology is a blessing and a curse. It can be, can't it? Really, is.
The upside of it is that, and I'll confess, if we were doing this live, we'd have been finished. Yeah. But now we're recording it. People, you know, they can watch it at their leisure, on and off with it. Certainly, you know, it's too rich a conversation to have stopped anyway.
Yeah, but that's
David.
The thing.
Go ahead, sorry, please.
But yeah, it's still in prisons and helping people to get together, like on a monthly basis, out of prison. Normally meet up in London, and it's called Beyond Recovery. We call it Beyond Recovery Family because that's what is. That's the thing. We are all meant to be connected in life. The only reason we're not connected is our judgments towards people. When does a woman become your girlfriend? When does that girlfriend become your wife? When we said not because that you sign that bit of paper, because when you drop that judgment. Now people from my past life that I used to be enemies, once I dropped my thinking towards that person, it's like, well, he's actually a really nice bloke. It's only my thinking towards them. We are meant to be connected. Why are we not family? Because we tell each other we're not, or we've made up this kind of story. And yeah, so, and that's the thing, it's like families, we all fall in and out of, not love, that's the wrong, like, like in and out of thinking. Yeah. Sometimes you take a step back, but I've found I've done that with my family, not for any particular reason, but at the moment it's just like I'm just enjoying being me for the first time. I just feel so, I don't, not in a bad way, but I just don't need, or not, or any else. Yeah, just let me be like I've I've come out of prison, I've helped, I've done my best to help people, and I still talk to people and do what I'm doing. But at the moment, I'm just in this little bubble, and I put my hand out, and and it's sometimes it's just but family's family, Billy.
Yes.
So we're always going to be good, and yeah.
This is really, really important. What you talked on to there is you take this at your speed. You take this at how that each step that you take inwards is reflected on each step that you take outwards. Like you say, because when we concentrate on the behavior, we're missing what's really going on the inside. And sometimes that when you're emerging from, and you say this, David, and I say this to people that we've had contact with that have been going through traumatic situation, take it easy. You just do what you're able to do, moving in the right direction at the speed you're able to do it. Nothing else. And there is no right or wrong. And if it makes sense that right now that it's the healthiest thing for me and my relationship and my immediate part of life, that this is exactly how I need this right now. For myself, it's loving, it's kind, it's healthy, it's doing all the right things. That's enough. That's enough. And when the time comes and we're able to take the next step, we take the next step. But it's based on this in here, well-being, not out of fear or out of anxiety or things we're supposed to do or any of that stuff. It's about taking the next loving step. That's it. And it takes all that pressure off and all that thinking off and all that noise, and just cuts through all of it. Take the next loving step when you're able to take it. It's as simple as that. David, I'm very conscious of the time that it's gone way over. If anybody wants to get in contact with David, I'm assuming it's through Facebook, David, they'll find you. David, thank you so much. Thank you so much for, it's David Saunders, by the way, if anybody's looking for him, or wants to reach out to him or get in contact with him. David, words fail me. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing honestly and openly and lovingly the challenges and how life was and how life is and the possibility of how life will be. I deeply appreciate your time and I honor the very presence of you, David. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Billy. Take care. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
And everybody, just before I go, that are watching this and you've managed to make it to the end, I have the wonderful Dickon Bettinger on tomorrow evening, Dr. Dickon Bettinger, an amazing man who spends his life talking about love. He's a glorious, glorious human being. And he's on tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at the later time of 7 p.m. In the meantime, lovers, thank you all so much. I appreciate everything, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.